and welcome to today's session about what is new in the cloud migration. For the short introductions, my name is Nikola, and I'm a software developer, and I have with me Dmitry.
And my name is Dmitry, and I'm a program management lead in the Business Central team.
So, we have prepared a lot of interesting content for you today. We are going to start with showing to you all of the new functionality that we have implemented for the next release. Then we are going to move into some stability improvements that we did. And we are also going to explain to you why the issues were happening. So if you were experiencing these issues, the good news is that they are fixed, and you will also understand why the issue was happening. And we are going to end with some news regarding the tooling availability. Most importantly, when the cloud migration with upgrade is going to be enabled for the version 20. And one of the questions that we are often getting, and that is version 14 still supported? So we will cover that one as well.
Yeah, and speaking of the new functionality, everybody knows that the most important user in the entire cloud migration process is a delegated admin. So I'm kind of curious if we managed to make the process of configuring the entire cloud migration smoother for the delegated admin user. Is there something you can share here, Nikola?
Yes, so that is going to be the first demo of the new functionality that we did. So we are going to start into the delegated admin and how delegated admin can run the cloud migration in version 20. As you all probably know, in the previous releases, it was not possible for the delegated admin to run the cloud migration. In the V20, it is possible. It only requires an approval from the licensed user that has a super permission set. And I'm going to show to you this approval process, and you will see it is very simple and very easy to do. So after the licensed user grants you the approval, delegated admin is able to configure and run the cloud migration end-to-end without the need to contact the licensed user. We have also introduced the functionality if the licensed user regrets this decision and decides to revoke the approval. That's possible as well, and that is essentially going to stop the cloud migration. So here we can see that the delegated admin is logged in. So if you just go and search for the cloud migration page and navigate to this page, as I have said before, you would not be able to open a wizard to configure the cloud migration. Right now, if you invoke it, you will see that the wizard is opening. And when you accept the privacy warning, you will see that we will show you a message that you are lacking the approval from the full licensed user. And we are also going to give you a link that you can share with this user so they can grant you the approval so you can continue further with the cloud migration setup. So now if we switch our roles and we sign in as a licensed user with super permissions to see how the experience looks from their end. The good news is that the licensed user does not need to wait for you to send the link to them. They can simply go to the page search for delegated admin consent, and on this page they can invoke the simple action to grant consent. And now you are able to run the cloud migration. If they decide to revoke the consent, the cloud migration is going to be stopped. So if you select yes here, that will disable the cloud migration. And in the UI itself, we have made it very visible why the cloud migration is disabled. The message is going to say that it was stopped because the user has revoked the consent.
Oh, this is absolutely stunning. Thank you very much, Nikola. You probably all know that delegated admin is near and dear to my heart, and I'm so happy to see this experience being so smooth for the person actually doing the job. So I really hope it will enable many partners to kick off the cloud migration smoothly and in a compliant way, getting the proper permissions from the licensed and super user to run the cloud migration. One other thing I wanted to ask you, Nikola, is actually a question about the end-to-end process of running the cloud migration. I heard somewhere, it may have been your presentation in the last year, that the cloud migration is a multi-step process, and sometimes, especially in the situations when you have multiple companies, you would need to repeat this in batches, like synchronizing batch of companies again and again and again. And being a partner, I would imagine that it's not a straightforward process. I wouldn't really want to sit there and then watch the process complete and then kick off another process and yet another process. I'm pretty sure that partners have better things to do than watching the migration process. Do you think that process could be done any smoother?
Yes, and now we are moving. Thank you for the question. It's an excellent question, because now we are moving for the demo for my personally favorite feature, and this is the APIs for managing the cloud migration end-to-end. The same as you have said, Dmitry, the problem is if you are trying to move many companies, like 20 or 30 or 50, you're going to need to do it in batches, unfortunately, because we have a strong limitation on the size of the tables that is being moved. And the goal that we wanted to achieve with the APIs is that we wanted to enable you to set up and to manage the cloud migration end-to-end by using APIs and without any need to do any UI interaction. So, for these reasons, we have provided the following set of APIs. Now, from version 20, it's going to be possible to do the setup fully by using APIs. We have automated the wizard, so you can, instead of running the wizard in UI, you can set it up by using the APIs. Then, all things around company management, selecting which companies are moved from on-prem to SaaS, or creation of these companies can be done through the APIs. You can also define the table mappings if you are moving custom tables. And then, the more important, in my opinion, set of APIs is actually the migration management APIs, which will allow you to control how the data is replicated, track the progress, start the data upgrade, and disable the cloud migration in the end. Yep. So, for the demo, we have prepared a recording of a cloud migration of 66 companies from a database. We will use 10 companies in a batch because this is a solution that does not contain too many additional tables like ISV solutions or additional add-ons. It's containing 60 gigabytes of data. Currently, it is on version 14, and the goal is to run it without any UI interaction. So here I have my PowerShell script that I have written. It's going to start invoking the APIs. And as you can see, I have typed a single line. And I have provided a SQL connection string as a variable. So when I start it, we are going to open a wizard. So this is the first step through the API. And now Wizard has given us the integration runtime key. And it's also possible to configure the integration runtime through the PowerShell. So it's not needed that you reinstall it every time. So you can see here, the integration runtime is connecting. And at this point, SaaS instance is connected to the ADF, and also on-prem database is exposed and available. So here we are just going to wait for the integration runtime to be fully completed. We are going to complete the setup, and now we have started creating the companies. So you can see now we are creating companies in the batches of 10. The video is speeded up. As you can see, the company creation is unfortunately not this fast. So here it is running. And I'm going to speed up the video a little bit so you can see at the moments when the batch is completed. So here the batch number 1 was completed. Batch number 2. That's the green text that is passing. Batch number 3. And after the companies are done, we will start moving the data into the SaaS, and this is this step. The interesting thing that is going to happen shortly is that we are going to get an error here. And the script was able to recover itself. So it just issued another replication request, thus it just continued replicating the company, so no time was spent on this one here. And after the replication is done here for all of the companies in batches, we are going to start running the data upgrade. And we will wait for it to complete. This process has taken around 6 hours to complete. And in the end, we are going to disable the cloud migration, and it is done. So, in summary, you have seen how we have migrated 66 companies overnight. We moved 60 gigabytes of data from version 14. More than 40,000 tables were included, and as I said before, it took around 12 hours to complete it end-to-end. And it was all done by just running a single command without any UI interaction.
Wow, this is really impressive, and it brings so many memories back. I don't quite remember the last time we showed PowerShell script in such a setting, but I'm personally so excited to see this automated end-to-end because it was such a frequent request. The only thing I miss at this point is a basket of popcorn. That's going to be really cool.
So this automation was running actually overnight. So I have kicked it off around 9 in the evening, and it completed around 10 the next morning. So it required no interaction.
And it's absolutely great to see the resiliency built into that script. So if it fails at some iteration, you actually retry this iteration once again to make the script proceed and complete its job. One thing I'm missing in this demo though, so if I'm a partner, would you recommend me creating such a script, or is there something you can help with?
I would highly recommend creating such a script. And if you would like to do that, you can use this script that we have just demoed. You can download it from here, and then you can adapt it to fit your own needs. This is basically the test script that we have been using internally. Thus, we wanted to share it with the partner channel so they do not need to build from scratch. Also on this link, there will be a Postman sample of all APIs that are being used for the cloud migration, so you can also use that one as a learning opportunity.
That's fantastic. So I'm really hoping that this will get our partners going in no time at all. Now, remember in this last Business Central launch event, I do remember a very vivid presentation of a tall and handsome guy talking about how the Business Central team refactored the entire cloud migration process to split it into 2 convenient phases. And that tall and handsome guy explained, it may have even been you, I mean, I can recognize you from this picture, explained that now this process is split into 2 phases, replication and data upgrade, and we did it for Business Central partners working with the cloud migration. But there is another product we care deeply about. Can you remind me what is done in this release for this special product?
So yes, in this release, we have managed also to implement the same changes we did for BC, for GP, and GP cloud migration is now 2-step as well. So when you are done replicating the data, we are going to mark the status as upgrade pending, which means that the tables are going to be held inside of the GP dedicated buffer tables, and no data will be transferred over to BC. This is going to give you the same benefits as the BC users had. First, you will get an easier delta sync if the GP instance is still being in use on-prem. Then you can change the data in SaaS instance before you trigger the upgrade. And this is quite useful if you would like to delete some historical data or if something is making the upgrade fail. You have the option of copying this instance that is replicated to Sandbox and test the upgrade there, so you don't pollute your production environment. And this is also going to speed up your testing significantly. And the last thing that you can get is point-in-time restore in case that upgrade fails, because upgrade is a problematic step, and it can happen that it fails for various different reasons since it is working with data. So if this happens, you can easily use the point-in-time restore and simply trigger it again. So when you're done replicating, to start the data transformation, you invoke run data upgrade now. The status is going to flip to upgrade in progress, and then after some time, it is going to become completed. And this is how you know that the GP cloud migration is done.
Yeah, I'm so happy to see this change. So now both products, Business Central Cloud Migration and Dynamics GP Cloud Migration, are going to have this 2-step cloud migration approach, which will help every partner in both products perform this synchronization in a better way. There's one thing I wanted to remind our viewers of, is that when you perform these steps, when you perform the cloud migration in 2 steps, as Nicola just mentioned, you can perform this migration in delta syncs, so synchronize data periodically as users continue working with the data on-prem, so you can keep synchronizing this in the cloud. And when you're done synchronizing everything into the cloud in one or multiple iterations, you then run the data upgrade step. All right, so this is also our very, very serious recommendation to you to always perform data upgrade as a last final step before actually going live. However, what can happen in the situation of the cloud migration is that as you keep synchronizing data into the cloud, let's say that it may take a few days if you want to spread it over the week. And at that point of time, Microsoft comes up with a bright idea to ship either minor or major update, right at the point where you're still synchronizing the data. So what's going to happen in this case, if you do nothing, if you don't react on Microsoft's or our announcements about major and minor updates, the data which is already migrated into the online environment, we will start the data upgrade process on that data, and we'll complete it. And once the data upgrade step is completed, we will mark the synchronization as done, and we will turn off the cloud migration. So this will happen automatically. We will trigger the data upgrade and turn off the cloud migration. If you want to prevent this step, if you want to prevent our upgrade stopping or finishing and disabling the cloud migration, you're welcome to use our capabilities to reschedule upgrades in the Business Central Admin Center. Both of our upgrades, major and minor, have this capability to postpone the upgrade to a better day, way out into 1 or 2 or few weeks, so that you have some time to migrate the data completely, run the data upgrade, and after that allow it to be updated to the new version of Business Central. So please remember to watch our notifications about upcoming updates. And if you are in the middle of a cloud migration, just postpone the update.
Okay, so I believe that was all for the new functionality, right? So we are going to slowly start moving into the issues that we were facing. And one of the main issues that we were facing during the cloud migrations that we have seen on multiple cloud migrations is the handling of per database tables. So here we are going to get a little bit technical, but it's all very visualized, just to explain what the problem was and how to fix it. So if we are trying to move the data from on-prem into the SaaS, essentially we have 2 types of tables. One tables are per company, and the second set, a much smaller set, is per database. So let's say for this demo is that we have decided to move the company 1 into the SaaS. So we have marked this one to be replicated. We are going to create the same tables, and we are going to move the data over to the SaaS instance. But this is not sufficient. In order to have a working table and a working product, we need to move the per database tables as well. If we don't, the field references are going to be broken, and also the system is using some of the records from per database tables to be able to run. And for this purpose, we are moving the per database tables as well. And this move is going to actually include the data from both companies, from company 1 and company 2, because we are not able to distinguish which records are belonging to the company 1 and which records are belonging to company 2. Now, this is all fine, but the problem is going to happen if decision is made that company 1 goes live. So if the company 1 goes live and now users start working in company 1 in SaaS, so the company 1 on-prem is left behind and it's not updated. However, company 2 is still used. The problem that is going to happen here is that because users are working in company 2, they are going to add new data and churn the data in per company tables. So this is these 2 stars that have just appeared. By churning the data in per company tables, they are going to update the data in per database tables. So we will mark these with 2 stars as well. Now, of course, because the company 1 is used, they are going to do the same. So they are going to update the same tables, and they are going to update the same per database tables. And now, if we decide eventually that we want to move the company 2 as well, we can easily move the per company tables because it's just a copy. But now the question is, what are we going to do with per database tables? The existing system would do one of the 2 things, and none of them was actually good. Because the option 1, which was happening in fewer number of cases, is that these tables are not moved. And as a consequence, the per company tables would have wrong table references to the per database date. Option 2, which was happening in more cases, was that we would copy the per database table, but the engine would simply overwrite the entire tables because it is easier, and this is also a performance optimization. So in this case, the references from the company 1 tables would be broken, and all of the data that company 1 has added or updated in the meantime is lost. The third option, which would be the best, is that we somehow merge these tables, so we add the records that are missing. However, this is not possible in all of the cases. One of the examples where this is not possible is the setup tables, which are singletons. So it's a single record that is there. And it can also happen that company 1 and company 2 have modified the same record. Thus, we need to do some kind of the conflict resolution. So from these examples, you can see that it is rather difficult to move the per database tables into a live system, because then we would need to implement additional conflict resolution, and there is not a single strategy that is fitting all. So what is the solution? The solution is actually relatively simple, and this one is that when you enable the migration, you replicate all of the companies that you have. Then it's not a problem if on-prem is still used, because when you do the final replication, we are going to copy the entire data and the data is going to be in sync. So the per database tables and per company tables are going to be aligned. So one thing that I would like to end this commonly occurring issue with is that we do not officially support moving additional companies after users are starting to work with migrated companies online. And the reason why is per database records. So our strong recommendation to all of you is to migrate all of the companies before going live.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Nicole. I think the animation actually was very well explained in one of the top requests we had in our live site. You know, that the partners would enable this migration and migrate a few companies, and then later on having people working in the online environment migrating a few more companies, and this would get into the troubles that Nicole just explained. So certainly this recommendation, please take it close to your heart. Please make sure that you migrate all of your data, and only then you let the users into their new home in the SaaS world. However, there was one particular table I remember.
Yes.
It was very difficult to deal with, and many of you said, I mean, it just has to be synchronized. There's no way around it. So I was wondering if we solved that challenge.
Yes, so that specific table is tenant media table, as some of you have encountered it yourself. So this table was actually the most problematic per database table that we have in the product. The reason why it is problematic is because it is a system table, thus you cannot use rapid start or some similar means to move it. And even if you could, in some instances it is containing a very large amount of data, like tens of gigabytes. So it's not easy to move it into the SaaS instance if the customer is already live there. So this was the first issue that we were facing, and that one was that it wasn't included in all migration runs, and it would only be discovered after the customer is live. The second set of issues that we were seeing with this table is that customers would go live, and then the decision would be made to move the additional company. Thus, we would lose the changes that were done to the tenant media table, and the data would be overwritten and lost. Thus, we needed to do the point-in-time restore and then merge the data in some kind of way, which was also troublesome because this table is large, as I said. So the first issue was fixed, and the second issue was fixed. So I'm personally hoping that we can bolt this was, and that tenant media is not going to be problematic going forward. So the first issue is fixed by including the tenant media in every cloud migration. So starting from version 20, tenant media is going to be copied with every cloud migration. Overwriting the data has been fixed by introducing a new strategy. We are going to add missing records only, and we will never replace the contents of the tenant media table. I have to say that this fix is for this table only. So if there is other per database tables, they are still having the same issue as they had before. And one of the things that we may look into the future is extending this strategy to the other tables as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nikola. This was really happy news, I hope, for many partners migrating large tenant media tables into the cloud. So this was definitely one of the calls to action that I can recognize from the live side. With all of these improvements that were introduced in the cloud migration tool, like two-step cloud migration process, the APIs, the delegated admin flow, and enablement of the same flow for GP customers, many of you might be wondering, when are we going to be able to do that? Because version 2022 release, wave 1 is already out. When can partners get access to these capabilities?
So the good news is that you will be able to use this functionality with 20.0 release. We have also enabled the cloud migration from previous versions, running upgrades straight from the beginning, from the version 0. So there is no change comparing to the previous release, which was 19. So in short, we have listened to your feedback from previous releases that this is a disruption to the partner channel. So we are shipping all of the tooling together with the upgrade in a first release. All of the versions, starting from version 14 all the way to the version 19, are supported for the cloud migration. And the story has not changed here at all compared to the previous release. So you can start on-prem on the version 14, and you can do the cloud migration with upgrade to 20.0. So here we are going to move the data and run the upgrade in SaaS. Or you can do a single-step upgrade from 14 into 20.0 on-prem, and then you can have a shorter cloud migration, which is just copying the data over into the SaaS instance, and it's not running the upgrade. So which of these two you're going to select, it really depends on the scenario. So for some more complex scenarios, I would recommend upgrading on-prem. But if you don't want to spend time upgrading the tenants, you can use the tooling's ability to cloud migrate 14 straight into the 20.
And I'm pretty sure many of our viewers are really happy to see version 14 out there on the list, still being supported in the cloud migration flow. So the product itself is no longer supported, you cannot get licenses for it, but the cloud migration and data upgrade is still supported for this version. How is the experience of supporting that version? Do you think it's going to stick for longer? Could you give any advice of the duration of version 14 being in this migration flow?
Yes, so one of the often asked questions that we get from the partners is, for how long are we going to support this single-step upgrade from 14? And also, for how long are we going to support the cloud migration from 14? So I'm happy to say that in this aspect, the strategy has not changed, and we are going to continue supporting it as long as it is technically feasible. But as you can expect, it's becoming more and more taxing for us to maintain this long upgrade path. And one of the challenges that I can see that might come in near future is that it may take too long time to upgrade from 14 into the version 22, 23, and 24. So my strong recommendation would be to invest in upgrading the tenants from version 14 into the SaaS 20, or at least in a higher version on-prem.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. Please take that advice, and then hopefully with this tooling and with these capabilities, you will be able to migrate more customers sooner. And if there are situations where you need a good advice, when you need a help from Microsoft team or from the fellow partners working on exactly the same tool and asking exactly the same challenges, there is a place for you to ask these questions and to collaborate on. And that's our Yammer channel.
Yes, so you can join it by using this link here. And if you're having any issues, please reach out to us and we can fix it. And as far as you can see, there is 724 active members in this group. So if you would like to chat with us or provide us any feedback, or maybe share something with the partner communities or interact with other partners that are doing the cloud migration, the Yammer group is the place to be.
Thank you very much for staying with us for the duration of this short but very valuable demo. And I hope you spotted all your favorite challenges and questions implemented in the toolkit today.